Chuck, when's your next big motorcycle trip? From where? How are you, sir? I couldn't be better. And if I could, I'd say it. I went to the back of the classroom
That's
myself.
me too. That's where you find me at exercise class.
Matt Bailey and his UT shirt. He's got a big UT Power T in his front yard. Hey, Mr. Bailey, do you have that UT still in your yard?
Think about putting more in my yard.
You allow that?
It's in the yard. It's not my porch.
Come in. I have to hear, I don't have to see. Sometimes when things happen, you can't undo it.
That's what I'm talking about.
That's the life of government. It's just, it's well, I swear to God, stay away.
But I'm back now.
I've stayed away, so, because I didn't feel like it was right for me. Passing judgment. Of course, that's been almost 20 years, so I guess I could.
Yes.
I'm glad you held that. Oh man, it was. Well, you know, I heard somebody say that everybody seemed they just seem to be in a better mood. So you go to the grocery store, people that don't even like football are in a better mood. You know, somebody here. Look how much just this his team. Increasing the No. That's what they don't realize. He's worth every hotels, everything. That's why I say that. Like you said, to that whole state, the whole state of it. I mean, all of them. Yeah, that's going to happen.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It's 7 o'clock, so we're going to get started. I want to welcome you to the... What did you say? Okay. She says it has to be aimed at your mouth. Can't just be under your mouth. Okay. Welcome to the League of Women Voters. We are delighted to have you here. Tonight we're entertaining the candidates for Oak Ridge City Council and then the Oak Ridge Board of Education. I'm Dan Robbins, Director of Voter Services for the League. From your program, all the rules are published there. The candidates each have opening statements of 2 minutes, and then they'll know when a minute and a half is up because Harriet McCurdy here is going to hold up a sign, turn it around so everybody can see, that tells them they've got 30 seconds left, and then she holds up this one, turn it around, and if they don't stop, I have a hook back here, and so I think they will anyway. One of the people at the League's breakfast told me once when I would stop them after 5 minutes, he said, you know, we're politicians, so we talk till somebody tells us to stop, and so that's why the signs are here. What will happen during the meeting is that you have picked up probably 3x5 cards and a pencil, and you can ask questions, write down questions directed to the panel. Questions directed to a particular member of the panel are not allowed, so you're just wasting your effort if you do that, because our two question sorters over here, Pete Peterson and Carolyn Boyd, will take all of your questions and sort them and order them, and they'll give them to our moderator to read them. Wilma Reister, sitting at the back, will pick up the questions. Anytime you have one written and you're ready for her to pick it up, just raise your hand and wave, and she'll come pick it up. And if you didn't get a card, just raise your hand now and she'll bring you one. And our other usher that does the same thing is Carol Placille. This is being broadcast on Zoom, and so as we've told the candidates, that's the Zoom speaker. So if they want to be heard at home, they have to come over here and stand where I'm standing. This will let them be heard in the auditorium here. And the questions from people who are watching at home, if you want to ask questions, just put them in the chat box at the bottom of your screen, and Larry will write them on a 3x5 card and take them over to the question sorters. Now it's my great pleasure to introduce the moderator for the evening, who is Bear Stevenson, the owner of Stevenson Realty and Auction, who will charm you and entertain you. Bear. I don't know how much charming and entertaining I want to do, but I want to welcome all of you. It's good to see this many concerned citizens trying to make a decision about what's good for the city of Oak Ridge. And we've got 5 people running for 4 seats on city council, and we have 3 people, and we got 4 people running for 3 seats on the Board of Education. So you're going to have to, your vote will make a difference this year because of this. But I want to go ahead and give you just a brief civics lesson. I just left the Anderson County Election Commission meeting. We meet usually 5 o'clock the 3rd Thursday of the month, usually for an hour and 15 minutes, except when it's on an election day. And if you'll see my little I voted sticker on my sport coat, I went by the early voting precinct over in Clinton, which is at the fairgrounds. And I voted. I went by there just to say hello and thank our poll workers, those working the polls. And while I was there, I just went ahead and voted. Didn't take me very long. But there's 3 places here in Anderson County where you can go vote early. And early voting runs through 2 weeks from today. It runs through November the 3rd, and it's from 10 in the morning until 6 in the evening. 10 to 6, weekdays, and on Saturdays, the next 2 Saturdays, you can vote between 9 and 12, the next 2 Saturdays. So there's no reason why no one won't have an opportunity to go vote. In the Election Commission, there's an election commission in all 95 counties in Tennessee. Some of y'all have heard me give this speech before. It hadn't changed any. But in all of those 95 counties, there's 5 election commissioners. There's 3 Republicans and there's 2 Democrats. I happen to be one of the Democrats, one of the 2 Democrats that is serving on the election commission. I was appointed about 3 years ago by Tom Wheeler, who is on the state election commission. And the thing about being on the election commission, our job is to ensure that Anderson County residents have a free, fair, and honest election. That's our job. And we take that job very seriously because we realize just how important voting is. And I especially know how important voting is because 28 years ago, I ran against our sitting Lieutenant Governor, Senator Randy McNally. I rolled up my sleeves and I ran against him in the election of 1994.
And I got a very good education as to what these people on a small scale, what they're going through, whether you're running for school board, whether you're running for city council, doesn't matter what you're running for. It takes a commitment and it takes a lot of hard work and dedication to do it. And these candidates being willing to step up and say, I want to serve, I want to make a difference in this town, you being here will have an opportunity to hear them tonight. And with that in mind, we're going to go ahead and get started. Each of these candidates are going to give a 2-minute opening statement, and then you're going to have a minute and a half to answer questions, and then you'll have a minute and a half for closing remarks. But at this time, I suppose this is not set up all that good to do what we're doing. We're just going to have to work through it. Being an auctioneer, I know that when you have an auction, you just have to roll with the flow with what you got. Because right here is the microphone and the camera to pick up these candidates. So when they speak, you can walk right over here and somewhere in this area, you'll be able to pick up, and everybody at home that's watching by Zoom, they'll have an opportunity to be well connected. But now, down here on the end, it won't pick up that good. So each one of you candidates, and I was going to go in alphabetical order, but you aren't sitting in alphabetical order. So I'm going to start on this end. Got a shorter lens? Oh, you can stand in the chair, Charlie. But at this time, each one of you have 2 minutes to give an opening statement. We'll start with Charlie Hensley.
Thank you, Bear. Can everybody hear me? I've lived in Oak Ridge for 54 years. I look around, I see a lot of my friends and friendly faces. But I've been involved in the city also since 1977. Some of the things I've been involved in, I did work for Lily Rose Claiborne in 1977 for the Board of Zoning Appeals. I opposed a coal barge terminal that would have been on our waterfront on the east end. I mean, can you imagine what it would be like now with no rowing course and no walking trails? I've been on the Planning Commission for 22 years. I'm still on the Planning Commission now. I was a charter member of the Land Bank Board. And I served on City Council from 2007 to 2016. And I'm a big supporter of the schools. I love our schools. I worked in the schools. I was actually a room mother for 3 years in the elementary schools. And I guess I asked myself, why do I want to be on City Council? And I asked myself that question about 3 times a day. And when I look around the city, I see so many things that I was involved in. The Main Street Mall project, the 8th lane on the rowing course, the widening of 58. I mean, it makes me feel really good. And so I guess what I'm saying is I want to get back on the horse. I want to continue to do that. And I promise you that I'll do it with the same zeal that I did it between 2007 and 2016. And so I do request your vote and consider me strongly for City Council.
And next we have Sean Gleason, who has 2 minutes for an opening statement.
Good evening. I learned at our first event that I need to write stuff down, so I knew it. All right. First, I'd like to thank the League of Women Voters for hosting the forum and the mission the League works to fulfill every day. Equal access to voting and confidence in the democratic process is fundamental to forming a truly representative government at all levels. Second, I hope through the question and answer portion of the evening you'll gain familiarity with my position across a range of topics. So I want to use this time to introduce you to some things which may not come up. I've been married to my wife Sharon for 15 years. She overspends on cookies. Yes, Mr. Dodson. Together we've raised 3 children, all of whom attend Oak Ridge Public Schools from Oak Ridge High School through Glenwood Elementary, where Sharon also works in the Family Resource Center. I'm the president and CEO of IB3 Global Solutions, a national security-focused federal contractor headquartered here in Oak Ridge. Myself and the company owe a lot to the city. We have grown from 19 employees to over 200 since we relocated to Oak Ridge. I believe Oak Ridge is entering a period of significant opportunity, that we have the potential to use our national brand identity in science and technology to form a center of excellence in next-generation nuclear, to lead collaborative growth with our regional partners in Roane, Anderson, and Knox County, and to use that economic development to reinvest in our schools, city, park, and waterfront. I thank you for being here. Look forward to your questions. Did I do it under time? Yes.
Okay, now, our rulemaking number 1, don't applaud until all 5 have spoken. Dan just told me that. So just hold your applause until everybody has finished their opening statement. And our next opening statement is from Mr. Warren Gooch.
Thank you, Mayor, and good evening, everyone. I want to thank the League of Women Voters for putting on this forum tonight. It's been my privilege to serve as mayor for the last 8 years. I'm proud of my contribution to the collective effort of many people in this room and outside who have enhanced the reputation of Oak Ridge as a great place to live, work, and invest. There's a real sense of excitement across the city from east to west, from Elza Gate to the Preserve, and for many factors involved in that. One, our population has surpassed 31,000 for the first time in decades. There's a record number of new residential housing starts. We have the highest sales tax collections in history. Our property tax rate has been reduced from $2.54 to $2.41 since 2014 due to economic expansion. The city's bond rating is AA+. Our crime rate has declined by 22% over the last 4 years. Last week, ChrysOX broke ground on its $300 million advanced nuclear facility, which will create 400 jobs. Yesterday, the city broke ground on a new state-of-the-art water treatment plant to replace our 75-year-old plant, which is beyond its useful life. Our city has great momentum, and I want to continue to contribute to its success, and this is why I'm running for re-election, and I ask for your support, and I appreciate all of you being here tonight.
And next we have Ellen Smith for her 2-minute opening statement.
Just a second. Before I make that 2-minute opening statement, I wanted to correct something. There is early voting in Roane County too, and we have some Roane County voters here, and the hours of voting in Roane County are different than in Anderson County. Something to check.
Since I'm on the Anderson County Election Commission, I don't know anything about Roane County. But I do know where they vote early. The First Christian Church, where you go down, if you're from Roane County, west end of Oak Ridge in the Roane County section, go down to First Christian Church on Gun Hall Road there on the corner, and you can vote early down there. Don't know the hours, but you vote.
You have to remember that we, Roane County, also hire auctioneers.
But they changed the name of the church like miles ago.
Okay, good.
It's the same building. Same building, right.
Sorry about that distraction. I'm Ellen Smith. I've lived in Oak Ridge for 4 decades now. Homeowner, married, raised a child here. Had a long professional career at the Oak Ridge National Laboratory, where I was an environmental scientist addressing environmental and safety aspects of energy technologies and DOE activities around the country. Back about 30 years ago, I was talked into applying for the Environmental Quality Advisory Board. Ended up serving a total of 16 years on the Environmental Quality Advisory Board of the City of Oak Ridge. And somewhere along the line, I decided it was time to get more involved in government. Ran for city council. Ended up spending a total of 13 years on council now. I'm one of the incumbents who's running. The only woman on council at the moment. Mr. Gooch has talked about some of the things that we've accomplished in the last few years, and I'd echo that. I'm proud of what we've accomplished as a team on council. The city is in good shape financially. Among other things, we've managed to refinance a lot of our debt so that it's a lot more affordable than it used to be. We're seeing residential growth, which is impressive. We're over 31,000 in the 2020 census, and we're growing actively at the moment. We've seen retail and industrial revitalization that we were waiting for a very, very long time. We have the new preschool and new senior center that I was proud to contribute to, and there are many other wonderful initiatives in the pipeline. We're doing well, but I feel like there's a job still to be done, and I would like to participate in doing it. We're not perfect, and we never will be. Partial list. One thing in particular is that I'd like to work toward realizing the vision that was outlined in the city blueprint. It was created largely by citizens and adopted by council back in May of 2019. It's been on hold through the pandemic, but it's time to move forward with it. And my time is up. Thank you.
And our last candidate is Carmen DeLong. You have 2 minutes for an opening statement, Carmen.
Good evening, and thank you to the League of Women Voters for having me, and thank you all for caring about your community and coming here to listen to us. Can everybody hear me? I can't hear myself. Can we start over with the time? Okay, there we go. Okay. All right, again, thank you all for being here. 2 days ago, the nuclear power industry made history. We loaded 157 fuel assemblies in a brand spanking new Westinghouse AP1000 unit being built at Vogtle Nuclear Power Plant, Unit 3, by Georgia Power and Southern Company. I'm a nuclear professional. I've been providing engineering services to commercial nuclear power for 20 years, and I have a master services agreement with Southern Company. Why am I telling you this? What does this have to do with Oak Ridge? I really would have liked for Oak Ridge to be more involved in the production of nuclear power. I think that would be good for Oak Ridge, and it would be good for its citizens. I believe that we can create a institute of nuclear power knowledge, which we desperately need right now. If anybody has heard of the Silver Tsunami, the Silver Tsunami is created by the fact that we haven't built a power plant in 30 years. I have one of my mentors who's in his 70s and just had cataract surgery, got pulled out of retirement to go support a turbine control system mod at Surrey. We have amazing people in our declining neighborhoods that have potential to support the nuclear power industry. It's going to keep growing, thank God, because it is green power. And this is something that Oak Ridge can do. We can pursue grander missions and at the same time lift our working class and lift the people, our residents who are in declining neighborhoods through education and job opportunities. So that's one of the reasons I'm running for city council, and because I live in the older declining communities, and I want to be able to help our declining communities and find ways that we can pursue greater missions and at the same time raise our working class and our communities in decline. Thank you.
Now you can clap. We're just going to ask the same question to every candidate. And our first question is, and we've got more questions than we have time, and you've got a minute and a half. Got a minute and a half. And the first question is, And we'll just start down here, go this way, and then the other time we'll come back the other way. But Charlie Hensley and all of you are going to be answering the same question. But what is the most pressing need in Oak Ridge? What is the most pressing need in Oak Ridge? Each one of you got a minute and a half.
Talk right into that microphone.
Thought you were going to start on the other end. Well, I think we've got two problems in Oak Ridge. One is we need to have more affordable housing, and we need quality affordable housing. And, I think that having been on the Planning Commission for 22 years, I think we need to revise our ordinances to create more off-street parking, more green space, more street trees, and make our neighborhoods very walkable friendly, so we can have friendly neighborhoods that would improve the city. The other problem we have is support from DOE. And I would like to see Roane County, Anderson County, and the city of Oak Ridge talk about how we can approach DOE and increase the level of support that we get from our main corporate interest, that all their facilities are inside the city limits. And so that would be my two main problems.
Next we have Sean Gleason.
I just want to hire him. It's a fun way to go to meetings. So I'm going to dovetail a little bit off of what Charlie said and spin it a little bit. I think one of the bigger issues we want to try to solve is the retention of our workers. So statistics kind of fluctuate on this a little bit. I've heard numbers as high as 83% of folks that work in Oak Ridge don't live in Oak Ridge. Right? The question is sort of why is that? It's a complex question because it deals with people, but it presents us opportunities to attack a few things. Obviously, retail space, which we just talked about a little bit, some of the development that's been done. I spent the last year in the Industrial Development Board, got to be part of some of that, and I think we're headed in the right direction with those initiatives. Schools, which I touched on before. Schools are the anchors to our community. They always will be. It's the reason people choose to live in Oak Ridge, right? I chose to live in Oak Ridge because of the school system here. I could have bought a house in Farragut. My wife wanted to buy 40-something acres somewhere. I can't mow. I grew up in South Philadelphia. Power tools and I don't get along, so all my fingers because of it. But it was the school system that brought us in. Second, economic development, and we need to form a triumvirate around economic development and consolidate a number of different pillars so that we can attack with one voice. A triumvirate is going to be City Council, the Industrial Development Board, and the Chamber of Commerce. We've got to get that right. Stop.
Next we have Mr. Warren Gooch.
I believe the number one issue that we have in the city is our aging infrastructure from east to west. And I think we need to continue to focus not only on upgrading our water plant, which we are doing, but also the delivery system for it. We certainly need to upgrade our electrical grid, which is also, for the most part, 75 years old in some areas of the city. I think we continue to work on the stormwater and sewer, because we are required to do that under consent orders that we have with various federal agencies. But if we're going to continue to grow, and I believe we will, it would be very cynical for us to ask people to come to this city when we don't have the electricity, the water to serve them. And so we've got to focus on it. We now have the highest population votes that we've had in 60 years. And our city's very long, 19 miles, and we've got to continue to work very diligently and use every source of funding, potential funding, that we can find, from whether it's the state or federal government, to help us spread out the cost of that to the ratepayers. And that will be a challenge, but we're already working on that, and we're going to continue to do it. But infrastructure, infrastructure, infrastructure.
Next we have Miss Ellen Smith.
Well, I'm going to repeat a little bit from some of my colleagues, underline some things. I agree with Mr. Hensley that quality affordable housing is one of our most significant challenges, one of our most significant needs these days. I'm on the board of Torch, and I'm very well aware of the difficulty that people have finding safe, quality places to live that they can afford. Maintenance of infrastructure is also a significant concern. Potholes is the single thing I hear most about from citizens. In respect to infrastructure, stormwater is an issue we're not doing a very good job with. Another thing I hear about from residents. One of the needs that I think is related to both of these is good transportation options for our citizens. People with disabilities, low-income people, no car, children need ways to get where they need to go. We need a way to move around. And the city transit hasn't been as effective as we hope it would be. And we understand from United Way that there are a number of people who need work and can't get to a job because they don't have a car. We need to find solutions to our transportation situation. So, next person.
And next, Carmen DeLong.
Testing. So I live in the historic community of Oak Ridge off Georgia Avenue. And on okay, can you hear me? I live in the historic communities of Georgia, off Georgia Avenue, and I've lived in my home for 23 years. And between working at nuclear power plants, I train for marathons. The hills train you well. I qualified for Boston running these hills, and I think some of you have seen me fly by your house, or maybe not fly by your house. But with respect to what we need, we critically need real career opportunities for our working class that are feasible for them. Lockheed Martin actually had an incredible program at Y-12 where they paid professors to come give courses, and people got their degrees while working. That elevates the working class, and we need to focus on Oak Ridgers. The housing in the older part of Oak Ridge where I live is beautiful, but the neighborhoods are in decline because we're exceeding the 50% ratio of rental to ownership. That's an issue. We have a lot of lovely people that are frightened half to death about who's going to rent the house next door, and that's unfair to them. We need to address these issues.
Now, Carmen, we're going to start on this end and go that way this time. And we'll get Mr. Gooch in a minute. He'll go first. But we're going to change the topic, change the subject. But I don't want y'all to shoot me. I'm just reading questions that you've written out. I'm just a messenger. But I want to change the topic. What are your thoughts about supporting the Oak Ridge Police Department?
Thank you for that question. I've actually been meeting with Chief Smith throughout the past 2 years about serious concerns and the decline in my neighborhood. Okay, I'll walk over here. The Oak Ridge Police Department needs a bigger budget, and so does the fire department, and so does codes. But throwing money at something doesn't always solve the problem. This needs to be a collaborative effort. Neighborhood safety, security, it lies at the crossroads of law enforcement and codes enforcement and the community. So I fully support ORPD. They need more money for training. And we need to have a system where we can voice. Many of my residents are scared to call the police because they're scared to be retaliated against. That's awful. I have elderly neighbors that have moved because they're scared. They're scared to call the police. They're scared to be retaliated against because we have people renting our homes that have addiction issues. They are disruptive. It's affecting us. We have 30 children in our neighborhood that have had to listen and witness to things that children should not see or hear. And we need to address this. And we need to support our Oak Ridge Police Department. in our fire department, but it needs to be a well thought out collaborative effort. Thank you.
Next, we have Ellen Smith.
Ms. Long is right. It's important to support our police department. And one of the areas that I'm been very pleased with that I think we need to do more of is very effective training for our officers. Cities provided a lot of leadership in that area. The crisis intervention training that our officers receive has been an exceptional asset. We're now training people from around the region, not just our officers, to be people who can not merely is not the right word, but not merely enforce the law, but also be effective in working with people in challenging situations to resolve conflicts and find assistance for people. That support for that kind of training and support in general for training is a very important part of what we can do for our police. And the council is working on a new compensation framework for city employees, including police, that hopefully will address the problems we've had in recent years with poor retention of our officers. Thank you.
Mr. Coops, you give us your thoughts about supporting the Oak Ridge Police Department.
For the last 8 years, I'm happy to say that the budget for both the police department and the fire department have been increased. We need to continue to do that. We need to continue to add more officers. We just had 3 new officers introduced to council at our last meeting. We've had 6 new officers go into the police academy for their training. Ellen is right in terms of the additional specialized training that we are funding, and that is absolutely critical. And I think that we will continue to do that. And the compensation plan that's being chaired by Councilman Chuck Hope is going to be very important in the process of retention of officers because we're in competition as a city with lots of other institutions, including the Department of Energy. In many instances, our police officers are trained and then they're hired away from us. So that will be a continuing obligation on behalf of this council and future council to be sure that our pay is competitive and that our officers know that they are respected and they have the total support of the city administration and the city council. And I pledge to do just that.
Next is Sean Gleason.
When I have time, I have notes. So, when I decided to run for council, police chief was the second phone call that I made to introduce myself to him as a candidate. Enjoyed the fact that my 14-year-old son was in the car because I've been telling him ever since, I'm friends with that guy. He's a good safe neighborhoods are obviously non-negotiable. The reason I reached out to the chief was because it's such a vital part of being able to grow. Right? We can do a lot of really good things from an economic development standpoint. We can attract a lot of businesses, but we're still not going to retain those residents if the neighborhoods aren't safe. So I called the chief up. We had about a 22-minute conversation. Marine Corps, very specific with times. In that conversation, we talked about a few things. One, that I look forward to meet with him after the general election. I thought it'd be improper to do so in advance of that in respect to the chain of command that exists between he and the city manager. But we talked about strategy and strategy development. I understand there's staffing challenges. We need to support that. As a former intelligence operator, I love the analytical tools-based approach, and I'm very excited about hearing more about that from the chief. And I'm going to push it until she almost has to bring. I'm just going to.
Give us your thoughts, Mr. Hensley, about supporting the Oak Ridge Police Department.
I had a very interesting experience on last Saturday when I was collecting paper for this forum. I had a police officer come up to me at Staples and tell me how glad he was that I might possibly come back to city council. Because in the past, I have fully supported the police. I think we need to pay competitive wages so we do not lose our new trained officers to the federal facilities. We need up-to-date training so we avoid the accidents that you read about in the paper throughout the country. And it's amazing the good things about our police force. We have tapped phones and heard contacts from criminals who said that they did not want to come to Oak Ridge because they thought they might get more likely be arrested. And so I like to hear that because we are doing the right thing. But we need the financial support for new equipment also. Another thing that I would like to see changed was I grew up in a little small town in West Virginia where everybody in the town knew the police officers. And so my goal is to know them personally. As if I'm elected to city council, I want to know the officers. I want to hear what the officers' comments are. But I would like to see the police cars not have the blacked out windows. And I'd like to see us focus more on neighborhoods so that the neighborhoods know who the police officers are and learn to trust them. And so we've worked with surrounding communities in the past, and I would like to see that continue. Thank you.
Everybody who runs for political office, we're all a little different. We all have different priorities. But I want each one of you to tell us, and all the people listening on their computers at home or in the office, what is your priority? If you're elected to city council here in Oak Ridge, what is your priority as a candidate? And we're going to start in the middle with Mr. Gooch, and we're going to go toward Hensley, and then we're going to come back and we're going to get Ms. Smith and Mr. Long. So, Mr. Gooch, you go first.
And I've had a complaint. Y'all need to hold that microphone and talk right into it. As an auctioneer, I've been doing that for 40 years. So just do it.
As it relates to the goals for the next 4 years, I think first and foremost, we have to be committed to protecting state funding for our public schools. As far as I'm concerned, vouchers and charter schools are just a ruse to take money from our public schools. That will continue to be a fight. We talked about infrastructure. I want to focus on infrastructure. I want to focus on the development of Wilson Street because I think that's the next gem that we have downtown that can be developed. I think we need to move forward with our plans. Planning, it's going to take a while to bring the new general aviation airport to Oak Ridge. We're the only city of a population of more than 30,000 that doesn't have a general aviation airport. And I think that's going to be essential for many of the industrial businesses that we are recruiting, and including the medical isotopes that are produced by Oak Ridge National Laboratory and perhaps other companies that have expressed an interest in moving into the West End Industrial Park and the Heritage Center. But again, it isn't just one issue. And I also want to think we need to continue to have a collegial relationship, not only among ourselves on council, but working together with our school board.
You're going to yell? No, it's not going to yell.
Outside in.
Where are you going? Okay. Am I going now? Tell me when to go. I'll go. Oh, okay. I'm gonna say economic development to tell you I'm not going to say it again. I think in the rest of this response because I've used it a lot. But here's what I'll tell you from a priority standpoint. I spent close to 15 years doing turnaround for private equity companies in Washington, D.C. When you do that, when that's your job, you fall back on key performance indicators that you can plug into almost any business and get a really quick assessment on the health of that organization. The number one KPI, and again, military, so here come the acronyms, right? But the number one KPI that I look at is revenue diversification. As soon as I take over a new business, it is a barometer of risk that is very, very easy to assess. When you take that same model and lay it on top of a city like Oak Ridge, what you find is that you have a revenue diversification issue with federally funded work through Department of Energy. Okay, I'm good. No one yelled. What does that mean for a city from a risk standpoint? If you're going to war game out, what would happen if? The question to ask about Oak Ridge is what would happen if DOE left? The solution to that is attract new federal agencies and tenants to Oak Ridge. And we can do that, but if I drag it on a little bit longer, I can make it like a cliffhanger and she's going to tell me to stop. We can do that on the west end of town. We can surround ourselves with that next generation modernization. We can take advantage of the science and technology assets that we have here, and we can get that done. First time. Thank you.
Charlie, you're next.
Thanks, Mayor. Let me know if I've got the mic close enough. I mailed out 11,700 of these things. And I don't know how many got them, but I list my priorities right there in black and white. I want to promote retail and commercial business, new and existing, because our tax base needs improvement. I want to promote affordable housing, quality affordable housing. I support education in our schools, as Keys knows. I want to protect and expand our parks, open spaces, and outdoor activities. A lot of people don't realize that we have 25,000 acres of open space in the city of Oak Ridge. I mean, what a resource that is with open space going away all over the country. I advocate city planning because I've been on the Planning Commission for 22 years, and environmental stewardship. That's very important. And I respect and honor the citizens' input and right to know. And so I want to be out there talking to people. I want to hear what the citizens want us to do. And if you look on the back at the organizations that I support, the Emory Valley Center, the Children's Museum, Oak Ridge Historic Preservation, Free Medical Clinic, Oak Ridge Playhouse, Aid to Distressed Families, Habitat for Humanity, Citizens for Wilderness Planning, and Advocates for the Oak Ridge Reservation. And I was recently honored by being a lifetime member of the Girls and Boys Club Board of Directors. And so thank you very much.
Ellen Smith, you're next.
Air is keeping us on our toes. We don't know who's next necessarily. I think it's important to realize that city government is not a single issue business. It's a complicated thing, and there are a lot of different ingredients that go into making an effective city. So we can't. None of us can be a single issue, single priority council member. We've got to cover the waterfront. My own personal primary issue has always been environment, meaning cleanliness, avoidance of hazards, and also maintaining open space, green space, and making it available to people. That's been my history all along. And I think that underpins an awful lot of what we need to do as a city. That's something that was, natural assets was the number one priority identified in that blueprint plan that the city created a few years ago. And when we do a good job with maintaining that, it helps support everything we want to do in economic development, quality neighborhoods for families, attractions to families, and everything else that comes along. But I work on everything as a council member, so I don't strictly focus on environment. And it is important. We have to have housing, we have to have good transportation, we have to have good roads, we have to have water and sewer. It's all part of the same picture. Thank you.
Testing, testing. So in a nuclear power plant, there are multiple different disciplines that run the power plant. There's the engineering design team that it works on modifications that take about 2 years, but then there's a EFIN team, Engineering Fix-It-Now team. I want to transfer some of my knowledge on getting complex projects done, to help our city. One of the things that I've conceptualized is a CFIN team, Codes Fix-It Now. I believe that part of creating a healthy neighborhood is good codes enforcement. I think that will help with some of the crime and the disturbances we're having in our declining neighborhoods. So my priority initially is to make sure children have a safe place to live, because they're our future, and children can't do well and thrive in neighborhoods that are declining. So we have to make that one. We need a CFIN that works with the police to deal with the declining issues. But at the same time, we really must diversify career opportunities for our working class. And as I mentioned earlier, there's a huge opportunity for Oak Ridge to step in and fill a huge knowledge gap in the nuclear power industry. What a great way for us to also be part of that, to be part of, supporting the production of clean power that we obviously all need and that benefits our environment.
We were going to ask 4 questions, but since we have 4 candidates for school board, and since it's right now 10 minutes till 8, we've got an hour for city council, an hour for school board, so at this time, we're going to have our closing statements. And each candidate gets a minute and a half for a closing statement.
Since Charlie started first, we're going to start on the other end of the table.
Testing, testing. I'm going to take this opportunity to be the voice for my elderly neighbor who moved away due to the decline in our neighborhoods. May 26, 2022, to whom it may concern. My husband and I bought this property at 101 Glendale Lane about 9 years ago for our retirement. She was a retired school teacher. The neighborhood was clean and fairly quiet. The properties were well kept, and the neighbors were lovely people. The house across from me sold shortly after, and since then it has become a nightmarish situation. People moving in and out every few weeks, coming and going all hours, cars with loud music late at night, trash strewn everywhere, with some ending up in my yard. Then about 2 years ago, the house facing me on Georgia sold again, many cars, most of which ended up parked in their yard, loud music, etc. This has been a large factor in me deciding to sell my home. She was elderly and crippled and a widow. There are children across the street from her that are seeing this. Catty corner from her house was Ed Westcott's house. Up the trail from my house was Dr. Alvin Weinberg's house. This is a disgrace. We have to do something about this. We have to find ways to diversify career opportunities for the working class and lift them up. We can have great visions, but not at the expense of not taking care of our citizens. Thank you.
Next we have Ellen Smith.
I humbly ask for your support to hire me for the job of city council member for another 4 years. It's a gratifying job some of the time, a lot of the time. It's gratifying when I can help get positive results for a fellow citizen or for our community. I work hard at that job, and I've engaged outside the city, serving on committee and board of the National League of Cities, learning from other communities, getting ideas for what we can do better in our community. My years of experience in city government, I believe, are going to put me in a good position to help us address whatever is coming down to the pike for us in the coming years. In my time on council, we've been through the Great Recession. We had the experience of hiring a new city manager. We had a pandemic, and we had a number of interesting little local crises. The experience of those things is going to help me on the job as the council addresses whatever challenges lie ahead of us now. Also, I'd like to ask that whoever is elected to council should try to continue maintaining the atmosphere of mutual respect we've had on council in recent years. The way we work together has been very positive. I think it's been good for the community. It's been good for the council members. It makes the city look good when we work together well, and I hope that will continue. Thank you.
During my 8 years as mayor, I've worked hard to delegate responsibilities and to appoint every member of council to lead specific initiatives based on their own personal objectives and things that they like to work on, and also based on council's priorities. I've continued to promote a commitment to excellence in our schools and city services and a sense of urgency in achieving the objectives of our city. I built a strong working relationship with the Board of Education, as has council, and with the Anderson and Roane County governments as partners, because that's going to continue to be very important going forward. And also state and federal officials as we try to enhance the city and enhance the things we do, and knowing the difficulties that all of us face going forward in governments at whatever level. I believe Oak Ridge is an exceptional city because we are welcoming, our citizens are forward-thinking, compassionate, engaged, and committed to excellence. I've told you what I think my goals are for the next 4 years and beyond. I respectfully ask for your vote and your continuing commitment to keep Oak Ridge an exceptional city. Great things happen in Oak Ridge every day, and tomorrow will be no example. We were created to be great, not average. Let's continue to be great. Thank you.
I'll start. All right, I'll start. We were having this fight for the last hour. We're going to figure this out. I didn't write a closing remark, so I'm dangerously off script. But Sharon's home with the kids, so everything's safe. What we heard a ton of tonight from myself and everyone up here is about the opportunity that Oak Ridge has in front of it. And I think that's fantastic. You guys will make your minds up about which candidates represent you the best and what you want to see for the future of the city. Certainly asked to be included in that if you feel that I'm the right fit. When you have my job, you don't get to interview very often, so this was fun. I've certainly enjoyed it. I think I bring a very specific set of skills to City Council. When we talk about growth, this is my passion. My wife in the Family Resource Center is fantastic because she has unbridled empathy. I do not. But I have a passion for growth, and I have a passion for lifting communities up. I do this in my own charitable organizations that I participate in. I hope I've reflected some of this back to you guys today. Thank you for coming. If you have unanswered questions about me, by all means, find me after the school board, and we can talk about it. Thank you so much.
I love Oak Ridge, and I love solving problems. I'm a mechanical engineer. I've been doing that my whole life. My many years of involvement in Oak Ridge allows me to do what my really strongest skill is, and that is to network. I like networking. I like finding people that are smarter than I am, and that's not hard to do. But I like to find workable solutions. This city is very special. I worked at all three of the plants. I got to know the Manhattan Project people when I came here in 1968. I have this background in the city, and it's in my blood. I don't know all the answers by any stretch, but I can find people who do. And nobody has all the answers. But thank you for your attention. And hopefully your vote in the upcoming election, in either early voting, and you'll probably find me at the early voting poll also, starting again tomorrow. But City Council is truly a position of trust. It's an honor to serve the city, and I promise you that I will continue with the same zeal that I've had for the whole 54 years I've lived here. So thank you for inviting me, and thank you for your attention, and hopefully for your vote.
Let's have a big hand for all 5 of these. Real quickly, I want to read you some of these questions. If we had read all of these questions, we'd be here till 4 o'clock in the morning. So some of them real quickly. Do you support the small modular reactors and other nuclear-related business coming to Oak Ridge? The mass influx of housing and residents are overwhelming our excellent schools. The City Council, would you support, what measures would you take to improve vegetation, overgrown vegetation in neighborhoods not being addressed by the city? There's all kinds of questions in here, but what is your position on the City Council, City Charter Amendment 1 and Amendment 2? But when we get finished, they're going to be out here in the lobby. If you want to ask some of these candidates your questions, you can go ahead. I don't know who wrote these. There's no name on any of them. But there's one thing that I would like to say. From hearing all these candidates, I'm glad I don't live in Oak Ridge. Because y'all got some decisions to make. There are 5 excellent people running for 4 council seats. I wish there was 5 running for 5 seats, but that's not the way it is. But y'all are going to make the decision. But I have got a vested interest in Oak Ridge. Oak Ridge, a lot of you don't know this. Very few of you know this, probably. But Oak Ridge is my hometown. My parents came to Oak Ridge in January of 44. 1944 is when my mom and dad showed up in Oak Ridge. Old dirt sidewalks. I mean, I've heard stories about it. And when I was born in the old Oak Ridge Hospital, I lived in Oak Ridge for 5 months. But my parents moved to a 40-acre farm 5 miles outside of Clinton, and I grew up a country boy on a farm and started milking a cow when I was 5 years old and went to Clinton High School. But if it hadn't have been for them deciding to move from Oak Ridge to a farm, I'd have grown up here in Oak Ridge. But I didn't. But I do want to say, you got some soul searching to do and deciding who you want to serve these 4 seats on City Council for the next 4 years. So, thank all of you for making the commitment and stepping up and saying, I want to serve in this town and make it better. So, now, y'all can leave now. Because now we've got 4 people that want to be on the school board. We're going to do this in alphabetical order. So, will you come down here? Heather Hartman, where are you? Heather Hartman, you sit in this chair right here. Laura Mclean, you sit in that second chair. Benjamin Stevens, you sit in that third chair. And Aaron Webb, Aaron, you sit in that 4th chair. Now you're in alphabetical order. You're over there on the yeah, you're number 1. We got Hartman, McLean, Stevens, and Webb. And each one of y'all have a minute and a half. No. You got 2 minutes. I apologize. You've got a minute and a half for closing remarks, and you've got 2 minutes for your opening statement. And we've got water for you. And at this time, Heather Hartman, somebody said, give her a minute. Take a swig of water. But you're going first with your 2-minute opening statement. Oh. Duh.
All right, I will try to do this well. Can you hear me? All right, can you hear me now?
Talk loud and hold it close.
Loud and close. Okay. So good evening, and thank you so much for coming out for this event. Thank you to the League of Women Voters of Oak Ridge for hosting it. I'm Heather Hartman, and I am the new candidate for the Board of Education. I live in Oak Ridge with my husband, Cleon, of 14 years. Just had our anniversary. He was born and raised here, and he and his children, in fact, the whole family pretty much, went through the Oak Ridge school system. My son, Mitchell Gibbons, went to Jefferson and then the Oak Ridge High School and graduated in 21. Y'all might remember he was the quarterback when we went back to state. We didn't win that game, but we had a chance there. So I've worked at UT in Knoxville, the University of Tennessee. I lead institutional effectiveness there and serve as the accreditation liaison with SACS, that's the Southern Association of Colleges and Schools, Commission on Colleges, and am responsible for the accreditation of the institution. I also lead and work on many committees at the university, both at the institution and in the system. My degrees are in business and education. I started college in my hometown at Auburn University. I earned a bachelor's degree in business and went to night school to earn a master's degree in management. I then went back to school after working in banking compliance, to earn an educational specialist degree and a doctorate, a PhD in educational leadership, which is school administration. We studied curriculum, policy, education law, and leadership in schools. I'm running for a seat on the board to have an opportunity to serve this community in a role that best matches my experience and ability. As the only new candidate this year, I'm certain that Oak Ridgers will appreciate the opportunity they have to have a new voice and a new perspective on the board. Thank you.
Next we have Laura Mclean.
Good evening. I'm Laura Mclean, and I'm running for re-election to the Oak Ridge Board of Education. I'd like to thank the League and the Chamber for hosting this event. My husband Fred and I are both graduates of the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill. We just celebrated our 38th anniversary, and we've been Oak Ridgers for the last 27 years. Our children are graduates of Oak Ridge schools. I'm a member of Altrusa and serve on the scholarship and literacy committees, and including the grant award program. I've been a long-term volunteer for graduation celebration and also volunteer with Boy Scout Troop 129 and am involved at First United Methodist Church. I was first elected to the board in 2014 and have served as vice chair since 2018. I'm proud of the many successes that Oak Ridge schools have had during my time of service. The dreaming, planning, groundbreaking, and ultimately the opening of our new preschool tops that list. We're now fully enrolled there with 200 3- and 4-year-olds, and we even have a waiting list. In our middle and high schools, we're expanding our career and technical education programs. We've added a drone class in the middle schools. At the high school, we have an advanced manufacturing classroom with students being trained on machinery just like that at the National Lab. There are classes in welding, automotive repair, nursing, and cybersecurity, just to name a few. Our new Portrait of a Graduate centers on every student graduating with a path to success, whether that's college, a technical school, or directly into the workforce. The importance of social and emotional learning is also being emphasized. This includes teaching our kids how to interact successfully with others and how to stay on track toward reaching their goals. I'm honored to be living in a community that values education and want to continue my service on the board.
Next we have Benjamin Stevens.
Good evening. My name is Benjamin Stevens. I came to Oak Ridge in 2007. I came to work at the plant, and one of my responsibilities was as an academic partnerships, working with UT and other universities to get graduate students and working with our workforce to help them get degrees and so forth as a program we developed here when we went to a 4-day week. That allows the students to go to school on Fridays, and when it first started and for a number of years, you saw more people walking down the corridor in this building probably than they saw at work. Have a lot of brilliant people there. We have a lot of brilliant people here in Oak Ridge, and we have some outstanding students. So accordingly, we have an outstanding school system. We have a great school board that works, that has endured the past 2 years through this pandemic. And I got to tell you, we didn't kill each other like so many others did on those school boards. We were far ahead when we had to go to the extreme of everybody online. All the children already had devices. That's forward looking. I've worked on the strategic plan even before getting on the board, and was asked to come to work on the board after Mr. Bob Eby left it. And he wanted me to finish his term. And then if I wanted to run for an election or for my own seat, I did. And I did. I'm glad I was asked. I'm glad I was appointed at that time. I would love to continue the outstanding work we're doing. We got a great team. Don't break it up. Thank you.
Aaron Webb.
Good evening, good night. My name is Erin Webb, and I'm running for re-election to the Board of Education. I'm an Oak Ridger born and raised. I graduated from Oak Ridge High School, and 3 of my 4 children are Oak Ridge High School graduates, as well as my husband. My youngest child is a freshman at Oak Ridge High School currently, so we have 3-4 more years with him. I've always been invested in our community and was inspired to learn more about our amazing school system, navigating my own children through elementary, middle, and high school. The experiences and exposures that they were receiving to new technology, trades, the arts was very impressive, and I wanted to be involved. I also wanted to know the other side of how this works, what politics and what policies were determined, and what direction the state was headed in respect to the ongoing challenges. Having grown up in Oak Ridge, I'm very aware of the rich history and traditions of our school system. Raising children who were and are current students allows me insight into how we have changed and how we are addressing a new generation with a brand new, ever-changing set of challenges. I am also the CEO of the Boys and Girls Club here in Oak Ridge, and I work exclusively with the children and families in our community. I see firsthand the needs of the families and where the children are struggling, and I've really worked hard to develop those relationships with my Board of Education, with the teachers and the administrators at the schools to help answer questions for families when they come up, clarify some misconceptions, and advocate for students' services that will improve their quality of learning and benefit the community. I've also worked very hard when concerns arise and if they need additional help to provide those safety nets and different services that they may need. Oak Ridge is experiencing an influx of new families in the area, and this is wonderful, but we also need to address potential overcrowding at our almost at capacity schools. Being proactive and not reactive is important as we approach this point of what expansion may look like. As we address additional constraints, we need to address the issue of before and after school care, which as Boys and Girls Club, I'm very aware of. So I look forward to continuing for 4 more years. Thank you.
Now, you know what's next. It's just a matter of which end we start on. Let's give them all a hand. Aaron, we're going to start with you. And this is the question I want each one of you to think about. And this is the question. Don't know who wrote it, but it's a good one. What are your unique qualifications to serve on the Board of Education?
I think I'm just going to repeat the last paragraph that I wrote. I work with the kids. I have kids. I'm passionate about kids. I say that a lot. I love kids. I would deal with kids every single day. I do deal with kids every single day. And I am passionate about what is going to benefit them. How can I help them? How can I help their families? How can I put them in contact with people that can help them? And then seeing that in the schools is beyond impressive. I was impressed before I even stepped foot in a school with my own kids, but the opportunity that we have to see what goes on behind the scenes every time we leave a school visit, I say, man, I wish I could go to school again. I wish I could go to school again. There's so many amazing things happening. So knowing that side of how to assist children, as well as just seeing them every single day and seeing that they struggle with food insecurity, they struggle with transportation, they struggle with learning disabilities. How can we help those kids? So anything that I can do in any way to assist families, I'm here. Thank you.
Mr. Stevens, you're next. What are your unique qualifications to serve on the board?
My unique qualifications to serve on the board is the experience I've had working with educational institutions for many years, many years, as the academic partnership manager for the plant. Prior to that, 25 years Navy. I've been teaching leadership for Tennessee Tech as an adjunct. I've also done a number of programs with universities and serve as a corporate trainer. I am a very experienced teacher of young people, young men and women, after they get out of school, as far as post-grad. So it's been my joy to help young people formulate and accomplish the objectives that they wish to do before going to work. And having the opportunity to sit down and counsel many of them on how to work or get an education smartly and not just hard. I wanted to continue that, and when asked to serve on the board here, it was understood after looking at what was outlined in the strategic plans for at least 4 or 5 years. On the second time around, I got real joy in doing that. So thank you.
Mclean's next.
When we first moved here to Oak Ridge, our kids were very little, and we had a neighbor. Her name was Elaine Trogger, and some of you may know her. Elaine was one of the first women, if not the first woman, on our Oak Ridge City Council. And I would visit her with the kids, and she was just a joy, and she always challenged me to be a leader and to do something in our community. And as my kids aged out of Oak Ridge schools, I had time, and I thought, what can I do? And I thought back about what Elaine had challenged me to do, and I was like, okay, I can do this. I can be on the school board. I've done it for the last 8 years. It takes a while to learn all the people, to learn all the abbreviations, to learn who to talk to about what. And so 8 years experience, 4 years as the vice chair. I'm with Erin. When we visit the schools, I'm like, oh my gosh, this is so cool. I mean, our teachers are rock stars. They're just doing so much. And I'm passionate about education, and I'm excited about the opportunities that we have here for our kids. And I just want to keep on keeping on. Thank you.
Next, we're going to hear from Heather Hartman.
Thank you. So we're talking uniqueness. I would say the first thing that makes me unique is I'm not currently on the board. So that's an obvious one. I would say another thing that makes me uniquely qualified is my academic preparation. I think I'm the only one who went to school for school leadership. I'm not certain, but I'm pretty sure. So as a part of a ed leadership program, we studied all of the education law, all the Supreme Court cases, all the precedents, everything like that. My dissertation was actually on teacher tenure, looking at the teacher tenure law in Alabama compared to all of the other states in the United States, and looking at all of the court cases that were brought and all of the tenure commission cases that were brought. So it was a huge study, and was nominated for an academic award by the Education Law Association. So I would say academic preparation is another one. Thank you. my experience at UT. I've got 20 plus years working in education and, currently lead an area at UT on institutional effectiveness, and that's basically how we're doing our job educating students. So I feel like all of that is very relevant and gives me a unique qualification. Thank you.
Now, Heather, you're going to get to go first this time. The next question. Do you support efforts by concerned parents to protect their children from books in the school library? Do you support efforts by concerned parents to protect their children from books in the school libraries? And how do you personally feel about allowing access to books that address gender, identity, and other issues?
Well, that's an easy question. No, just kidding. Definitely not an easy question. I feel like we have to have some faith in our school librarians. They have training and they have experience and they are in the best position to make the judgments about the books that are in the library. I feel like we want our children to learn to read and they need to be able to read whatever they want to read. I'm not in favor of book bans. I know, was it Mclean County that banned some books? Not my thing. So I'll just tell you, I would stand strong not to go in and make judgments where there are better people to make those decisions.
We're not going to need a minute and a half for this one. I am against censorship of our books in our libraries. If anybody wants to know what's in the library, there's a website. There's a link to our Oak Ridge School's website where you can look and see what the books are there. We have a policy all set up. If a parent has a question, they file out a form, and a committee is formed, and the book is looked at. The board decides, a recommendation is made, and the board decides whether or not to pull that book. That hasn't happened in the last 8 years. I think kids have access to a lot of different information, not just in our libraries, but I'm not for censorship of our books. And I do agree with Heather. I think our librarians are professionals. They are smart people. They are educated, and we need to, lean on them to help make some of these decisions. Thank you.
Next we have Mr. Benjamin Stevens.
No, I'm not for a whole lot of book burning, book banning, any of that. You, as a parent, do have the right to determine what your child is allowed to read. But that's in your home. You can work with the teacher, said, here is where I feel it's age appropriate, and have those discussions so that you have confidence that the teacher and the school understands your position. And they'll respect that. However, that does not mean they're going to go through the library and burn every book that you don't like. The classics are there. Some are maybe a bit risque, but you as a parent, if you don't want your child reading a certain book, then work with the school to determine what those parameters are and allow the school to help you honor that and move on. So we respect the parents. We want to work with the parents. Every time I've talked to a particular parent, please bring your concerns to the school, not on Facebook. Talk to the vice principal. Talk to the principal. Talk to the teacher. That's what they're there for. And if you give them the opportunity, they can work out whatever the particular issue you may have, and we have a great system to double check that all the way up to the superintendent. Thank you.
Next we have Aaron Webb.
I agree with everything that the other three have said. There's nothing else to add. Just parents need to be involved in their children's education, but our teachers are trained, they're educated, this is what they do. They've gone to school, they teach, they've done this for years. They are the experts in that area. Certainly as a parent, you have every right to say that you do not want your child to be involved in something like that, but let the experts do their jobs and just have that open line of communication and be involved in your child's education. Thank you.
And our next question is, and we're going to start down here with you, Aaron. We'll give you a little time to give your thoughts. Do you think taxpayer money should follow a child to a religious affiliated or charter school? I'll read that again. Do you think taxpayer money should follow a child to a religious affiliated or charter school?
No, I am not in favor of charter schools. I believe taxpayer dollars should stay with the child in public education. The parameters and the way that people can charter schools is still really vague, pretty fuzzy. Anyone can charter a school and take those dollars with them. That does not mean they're going to get the same level of education that the other students will receive in the public schools. There's just the regulations are just not there. So no, I do not support any charter schools.
This is a case where I almost say ditto. Okay. I come from a household where my father and mother were both public school teachers. I believe in the public school system. I think we have an outstanding system here that will match any private school you want to go to. We have the teachers, we have the curriculum, we have the know-how, and we have the will. I do not at all like the fact that you're going to take taxpayer dollars and send a child to private school unless there's some sort of extraordinary circumstance. That's not the case here, definitely. We have a great school system. We have one that'll stand tall with anybody, and we've got awards that speak to it. So what others do, good luck. But here, it doesn't come into play. If you want your child to go to private school, by all means, let it come out of your pocket. Don't take taxpayer dollars to do that. There's just too many schemes going on with that whole business. So, thank you.
I too am not in favor of charter schools. Charter schools have the ability to discriminate against children and families. They, can decide, oh, we're not going to provide special education services. Oh, by the way, we're not going to provide transportation. Oh, yeah, we're not going to provide meals. So that means the only kids that go there are the kids that have families that can bring them to school, families that can provide meals for them, families who can provide any therapy services that they might need. So no, I'm not in favor of charter schools. Thank you.
So this is where I'll separate myself from the group, I guess. I'm not in favor of charter schools in Oak Ridge, certainly. I think that we have excellent schools here. I think there are areas across the state where they don't have excellent schools. And so if I were a parent living there, I would hope I had an alternative. I don't think the answer is taking money out of the schools. All of the public schools need more money, always need more money. So I don't know what the answer is there, but I don't want to be myopic and, just look at our community when there is a bigger issue at hand for a lot of other folks.
This will be our last question before we have each of the candidates to have a minute and a half for a closing statement. But 2 years ago, The high school changed their schedule to a block schedule to address the learning gap caused by COVID. What, if any, benefits has this change brought about? Again, I'll read this, and we're going to start down here on the end with you, Heather. But 2 years ago, the high school changed their schedule to a block schedule to address the learning gap caused by COVID. What, if any, benefits has this change brought about? Well, we can start in the middle with Benjamin. Okay, Benjamin, we're going to start with you. Little switcheroo. Just like an auction, we changed. Okay.
As an auctioneer, I like that mic.
Block schedule. Yes, it has been a change for a number of households, but let me give you some insight on the benefits. During those time periods that have been lengthened, you get to go a little deeper into the subject that's being taught. During the breaks, fall break, spring break, when you've got a week or two in that break, for students that have fallen behind to have an opportunity to catch up, to spend a little quality time with the students that need the help. The block schedule offers that opportunity. The block schedule is kind of summer vacation, sure. However, it may have been uncomfortable, but it has been immensely beneficial to the students and the teachers in having that additional time to work with the individual students to identify not only what is the learning loss, but the strategy to rectify that. And that's one thing that we do very, very well during those particular periods of time. Thank you.
Hartman, Mclean, you go next.
There was lots of discussion and study and talk about moving to the block schedule. I think COVID brought out the dramatic effect that kids were having. We have kids, when they're on the regular schedule, they have 7 classes. So we had kids that were failing many, 2 or 3 of those classes because they were having to do so much work at home because of the schedule. By moving to the block schedule, our kids only have 4 classes. So they have 4 classes in the first semester, then they have 4 classes in the second semester. So kids are able, during, like Ben said, during our fall break and spring break, they're able to catch up during the 2-week break if they're behind and get remediation and hopefully be successful in that class. Whereas if we have a year-long class, if they're so far behind in December, they're probably not going to be able to catch up. So what impetus do they have to come to school if they know they're going to fail the class? What impetus do they have to pass the class? What impetus do they have to behave because they know they're not going to be successful? Thank you.
Heather Hartman.
Okay, so I would agree with what Laura and Ben have said as far as the breaks being a good catch-up time for students who are not able to keep up in their classes. I think with anything, you're not going to please everyone all the time, they say. So I think that this will probably be studied and that changes will be made if there are, reasons to make changes. If it's been detrimental, then I think they'll probably consider reversing it.
Aaron Webb.
think the biggest benefit has been the homework. Kids were drowning in homework. It was homework, homework, homework. They would go to school, do work, come home, do work, stay up late, go to school, do work, come back home, do work. It was just a nonstop cycle of homework. So block scheduling has had the benefit of the focus and the teachers taking their time, the students being able to take their time, catching up. All of those things have been great. I think we polled the teachers and asked the teachers how they felt about the block scheduling, and overwhelmingly, they said they would not go back. They liked block scheduling. The teachers enjoyed it. They liked getting to know the students. So I think overall that is the benefit. Yes, there needs to be some more time and experience it a little bit longer, but overall, I've heard nothing but positive remarks from parents and from teachers on the schedule as it exists now.
And now we have 1.5 minutes. Each one of the candidates has 1.5 minutes for a closing remarks. And since we started down here on the end with Heather, Aaron, are you ready? Okay, you're ready. Everybody else is ready.
Thank you guys for being here tonight. I know it's getting really late, so we appreciate you staying around for our Board of Education. But I just want to just say again, just reiterate the passion that I have for the students, for the kids in our community. And I think that passion is matched by the teachers and the administrators in our school system. I've been very proud to serve for the past 4 years and learn. There's so much to learn. Laura touched on it. There's so much to learn. But the school board does provide such good training and opportunities to take classes and to go up the ladder and learn all the different things that there are, and to meet with other school systems, learn from other school systems, bring the stuff back to Oak Ridge and continue to make us fantastic. Oak Ridge is Oak Ridge. I say that all the time because I'm an Oak Ridger born and raised, and I say we are who we are, and we expect the best. We expect the best in our academics. We expect the best in our athletics. We expect the best everything across the board in Oak Ridge. And I think this is a great opportunity. I've enjoyed being a part of the board because I expect excellence too. So I would love to continue all of the wonderful things that we've started in the past 4 years. And we lived through COVID, like Ben said, and it would be nice to just continue on and work through and just help our kids be the best that they can be. Thank you.
Benjamin Stevens.
One last time. Just a bit. Yeah, there you go.
I want to thank everyone for taking the time to come out this evening. There's one thing we didn't mention that's on all of our minds when we talk about our schools, and that's safety. We have a wonderful relationship with the police department. We have protocols in place that are practiced, and we have faith in our officers that are in our particular schools. They can't learn if they have to worry about bodily harm. They can't learn, the children can't learn if they're hungry. And we do our best to cover that base also. I would love to have your vote to continue what we've started. If you want to know a couple of places to get some idea, look at the 7 keys to career and college readiness that are on YouTube like everything else. And most importantly, look at the school's website and look at Portrait of a Graduate. That's all results of strategic planning for the school staff to come up with those objectives, and the schools themselves moving along those lines to accomplish those objectives. You've got some tangible things in place, but the best ones of all are the graduates of Oak Ridge High. Thank you, and vote for Ben Stevens.
Mclean is next.
I'm proud of how Oak Ridge schools were able to navigate through all the difficulties of the COVID pandemic. Because of the forward thinking of your school leaders, Computer devices were in the hands of most of our students well before the pandemic started. IT support and staff were already here, working and familiar with our curriculum. During the pandemic, our teaching staff, students, and parents were rock stars as they navigated through all of the challenges of hybrid schedules, Zoom classrooms, and connectivity issues. We have more challenges ahead. With an expanding student population, will we need to build a new school or add on to our current schools? Our current buildings are aging, and we have a limited capital improvement budget. Our IT department and our school administration need to be relocated into an up-to-date building that we can be proud of. Finally, we have students with increased social and emotional needs that must be addressed. I chose the apple as a symbol for my campaign signs. Apples were traditionally given to teachers as a sign of appreciation, and today I hold up our teachers and staff as deserving of bushels of apples for their hard work and dedication. I pride myself in quiet leadership with much study and thought put into the issues. I'm honored to have had your support in the past and want to continue to serve. I'm Laura Mclean, and I respectfully ask for your vote.
And next is Heather Hartman.
I have always been a volunteer. I was a Cub Scout leader, and in my first year here, I was a PTO president, believe it or not. When my son began to play football, I was president of the Booster Club and president of the Oak Ridge Quarterback Club. The last 5 years, I sold advertising and designed and produced the Wildcat football program. Cleon and I volunteer regularly at our church, St. Stephen's Episcopal. I serve as the first vice president for the League of Women Voters, and I'm a member of Rotary. My parents were both educators, and I'm a proud product of public schools in Auburn, Alabama. I think that the public schools in Oak Ridge provide an excellent education for our students and deserve support and appreciation from the city and the community that respect that and that reflect that. For the board members, the students are and should be the focus. We also have amazing teachers, as we've heard, and administrators who are dedicated. And having worked in institutional effectiveness for years, there's always room for improvement. And so when presented with a decision, I'll listen to all sides and review all of the information available to try to make the best decision and cast my vote for what's best for the children and the community of Oak Ridge. And I hope you'll cast your vote for me, Heather Hartman. Thank you.
Let's give all these four candidates a big round of applause. I only have two things to say. Number one is, this is going to be a tough choice because we have four excellent candidates for the school board. Too bad that one of them will have to be eliminated because all of y'all are just excellent. I've enjoyed being here. Aaron, you said something a minute ago that you talking about excellence in sports. I mean, I don't mind Oak Ridge winning all their games except when they play Clinton, where I graduated from. But you know what my favorite school is in all of Oak Ridge educational system? My favorite school is Willowbrook Elementary because they're the Willowbrook Bears. And at this time, Dan Robbins, I'm going to turn this microphone to you to wrap everything up.
I have a lot of thanking to do because a lot of people deserve it. First, our volunteers from the League, our Zoom operator, Larry DuBois, our stop and go person here, Harriet McCurdy, the two ushers who've been running up and down with the 3x5 cards, Carol Placille and Willa Reister. And our card sorters, and because you got to hear the questions you got to hear, it's because of them And because people who wrote questions that you didn't get to hear your own question, it's because of them. And so Pete Peterson and Carolyn Boy, thank you. And before I talk about Bear, I want to thank the candidates, both for the school board and for, yes, Carol, I'm going to get there, both for the school board and the city council. And as I listened to the city council, I was reminded, if you've ever tried to get across the Solway Bridge between 3 o'clock and 5:30 and seen the traffic sitting there, I remembered that I had called Lamar Sign Company and asked how much it would cost to put up a sign there that said, if you lived in Oak Ridge, you could be on the Greenway by now. And so far, they haven't gotten back to me. But with all these powerful people on city council, I'll bet they could help me get an answer of how much it would cost and how we would get funded. I would also like to give a special thanks to Mary Uziel, who gets very upset when I do this. She's the person that organizes all of this and tells us what to do and what not to do and fusses at us when we don't do exactly as she says. She spends dozens and dozens of hours preparing all of those letters that I signed that you all got. That was Mary's doing. She made all the arrangements here. She's our water person, and she just deserves a fantastic amount of thanks. And so, now for Bear. This could have been a very dry evening. Thanks to Bear's good humor and efficiency and running back and forth and keeping all these candidates straight and reading the questions and even twice, he's made it a very enjoyable evening. So thank you very much, Bear, for what you've done. Thank you all for coming and spending the evening here. I saw a lot of people here who are also here Tuesday night for the state and national. And those of you who are gluttons for punishment, I thank you for coming as well. So, thank you.